The Tesofensine files, the weight loss drug too dangerous to approve. Welcome back to the Real Bio Protocol. Cold open, twice as powerful as Ozempic. That's not marketing hype. That's what the clinical data showed. A single daily pill that made participants lose an average of 12.8 kilograms in just 6 months. No injections, no nausea spiraling for weeks, just weight falling off at a rate researchers had never documented before. The pharmaceutical company NS Probiotics spent over a decade and hundreds of millions developing it. They were months away from FDA submission. Magazine covers were being planned. The obesity crisis was about to meet its executioner. Then people started dying, not from the weight loss, not from starvation. Their hearts gave out, blood pressure spiked into stroke territory. And just like that, the most powerful weight loss compound ever created in a controlled setting vanished from the pharmaceutical pipeline, buried, abandoned, officially dead. But here's the part they really don't want you knowing: it never actually went away. Right now, as you're watching this, thousands of people are injecting research-grade tesofensine they bought from gray market peptide suppliers. No prescription, no monitoring, no idea what they're actually putting in their bodies. And the results? Some are posting transformation photos that make Ozempic look like a multivitamin. Others are ending up in emergency rooms with chest pains their doctors can't explain. This is the Tesofensine files. The weight loss drug too dangerous to approve and too effective to stay buried. ACT1 the problem. Let's rewind for a second and talk about why this compound even exists. The obesity epidemic isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Over 40% of American adults are now clinically obese. Not overweight, obese. The metabolic disease that follows is projected to bankrupt healthcare systems within 2 decades. Diabetes, heart disease, joint destruction, certain cancers, all of it traces back to excess adipose tissue and the inflammatory cascade it triggers. So what has mainstream medicine offered us? Decades of absolute failure. Remember fen-phen, the 1990s miracle that destroyed heart valves and got yanked from the market? How about Meridia, pulled in 2010 after it was linked to strokes and heart attacks? Or Belvic, approved in 2012, withdrawn in 2020 because it was literally causing cancer? The pharmaceutical industry's track record on weight loss drugs isn't just bad, it's catastrophic. Then came the GLP-1 agonists, semaglutide, tirzepatide, the Ozempic and Mounjaro era. Finally, drugs that actually worked without immediately killing people. The media went insane, Hollywood got thin overnight, insurance companies started covering it. Problem solved, right? Not even close. Here's what they're not putting in the commercials. GLP-1 drugs work by mimicking a gut hormone that signals fullness, but they also slow gastric emptying to a crawl. Your stomach becomes a holding tank. Food sits there for hours, sometimes days. The nausea isn't a side effect, it's the mechanism. And the muscle loss, that's the quiet scandal no one wants to address. Studies show that up to 40% of the weight lost on GLP-1 agonists is lean mass, not fat, muscle. The very tissue that drives your metabolic rate, protects your joints, and determines whether you'll be functional or frail at 70. People are getting thinner, yes, but they're not getting healthier. They're becoming what researchers grimly call skinny fat. Lower weight, higher body fat percentage, devastated muscle mass, metabolic rate in the toilet. So when you hear that tesofensine was showing double the weight loss with potentially less muscle wasting, you start to understand why certain people got very nervous. An effective solution threatens a lot of revenue streams. The weight loss industry, including pharmaceuticals, programs, surgeries, and supplements, generates over $250 billion annually. A drug that actually solves the problem, that's not a product, that's a threat. ACT2, the hidden truth: tesofensine wasn't developed as a weight loss drug. That's the first thing you need to understand. In the early 2000s, Danish pharmaceutical company Neurosearch was hunting for a treatment for Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's. They created a compound that inhibited the reuptake of 3 key neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. A triple reuptake inhibitor. The theory was elegant: boost these neurotransmitters, improve cognitive function and motor control. Standard neuropharmacology. But something unexpected happened in the phase 2 trials. Patients started losing massive amounts of weight. Not just a few pounds, significant, sustained fat loss that the researchers couldn't ignore. The Parkinson's and Alzheimer's results were disappointing. But this weight loss signal, it was screaming. Neurosearch pivoted. They licensed the compound to a new entity that would become NS Probiotics specifically to pursue tesofensine as an obesity treatment. What followed were some of the most impressive clinical results in weight loss pharmacology history. The TEPO-1 and TEPO-2 trials, published in The Lancet in 2008, showed dose-dependent weight loss that made everything else look primitive. At the 0.5 mg dose, participants lost an average of 9.2% of their body weight in 24 weeks. At 1.0 milligrams, that number jumped to 12.8%. For context, semaglutide typically produces 10 to 15% weight loss. But that's over 68 weeks, not 24. Tesofensine was getting comparable or better results in roughly one-third the time. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. The body composition data suggested tesofensine was preferentially burning fat while preserving lean mass at a higher rate than GLP-1 drugs. The mechanism made sense. By increasing catecholamines through norepinephrine reuptake inhibition, it was directly stimulating lipolysis, breaking down fat stores, not just suppressing appetite. Participants reported increased energy, improved mood, enhanced focus. They weren't just eating less, they were moving more, thinking clearer, feeling better. The triple neurotransmitter hit was creating something that looked almost like optimized human function. So why isn't this drug in every pharmacy on Earth right now? Because when you amp up catecholamines, you're also amping up cardiovascular stress. Heart rate increased, blood pressure rose. And in the phase 3 trials, the large-scale studies needed for FDA approval, the cardiovascular signal got louder. Several participants experienced serious cardiac events. Some died. NS probiotic couldn't explain it away. The FDA wasn't going to approve a weight loss drug that might cause heart attacks in a population already at elevated cardiovascular risk. The compound was shelved. Development ceased. Tesofensine became a footnote in pharmaceutical history, or so the official story goes. The CT3, the mechanism to understand why tesofensine is both incredibly effective and potentially dangerous. You need to understand what's actually happening at the biological level. Your brain uses neurotransmitters as chemical messengers. When a neuron fires, it releases these chemicals into the synaptic gap, the space between neurons. After they deliver their signal, reuptake pumps vacuum them back up for recycling. Reuptake inhibitors block these pumps. The neurotransmitters stay in the gap longer, amplifying and prolonging their effects. Tesofensine is a triple reuptake inhibitor, or TRI. It blocks the reuptake of 3 crucial neurotransmitters simultaneously. First, dopamine, the reward and motivation molecule. When dopamine signaling increases, you feel more driven, more focused, more capable of sustained effort. Critically for weight loss, dopamine also reduces food reward sensitivity. That ice cream just doesn't hit the same way. The drive to overeat diminishes not through willpower, but through altered neurobiology. Second, norepinephrine, also called noradrenaline. This is your body's primary activating neurotransmitter. It increases alertness, energy expenditure, and directly stimulates fat cells to release their stored triglycerides through a process called lipolysis. Norepinephrine is why stimulants cause weight loss. They're flooding your system with it. Tesofensine achieves a similar effect through reuptake inhibition rather than forced release. Third, serotonin, the satiety and mood molecule. SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are the most prescribed class of antidepressants precisely because boosting serotonin improves mood and emotional stability. But serotonin also powerfully influences appetite. It's why you don't feel like eating when you're anxious or stressed in certain ways. Serotonin signaling is altered. When you combine all 3 effects, you get a compound that reduces the reward value of food, increases spontaneous physical activity and non-exercise thermogenesis, directly liberates fat from adipose tissue, improves mood and reduces emotional eating, creates sustained satiety without the gastric paralysis of GLP-1 drugs on paper. It's the perfect weight loss mechanism. And the clinical data showed it worked exactly as the mechanism predicted. But here's the cardiovascular problem. Norepinephrine doesn't just affect your fat cells, it affects your entire sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. When you chronically elevate norepinephrine, you're putting your cardiovascular system in a sustained state of activation. Heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, blood vessels constrict. For a young, healthy person with no underlying cardiac issues, this might be manageable. For an obese population with already compromised cardiovascular systems, often undiagnosed atherosclerosis, hypertension, metabolic dysfunction, you're adding stress to an already failing system. The phase 3 deaths weren't random. They followed predictable pathology: hypertensive crisis, cardiac arrhythmia, stroke from sustained elevated blood pressure. The drug was working exactly as designed, and that design was fundamentally dangerous for the population that needed it most. This is the tesofensine paradox. The same mechanism that makes it so effective at burning fat makes it potentially lethal for people who are obese precisely because obesity damages cardiovascular function. ACT4 real-world application. So let's address the elephant in the room. Tesofensine is available right now from dozens of gray market peptide and research chemical suppliers. People are using it. They're posting results. Some of them are reading this and wondering if they should try it. Here's the honest truth. I can't tell you what to do with your own body, but I can tell you exactly what you're dealing with if you go down this path. First, source quality is a nightmare. Unlike regulated pharmaceuticals, gray market tesofensine has no quality control. Testing has shown that many research chemical products contain incorrect dosages, impurities, or sometimes completely different compounds than advertised. You might be taking tesofensine. You might be taking something contaminated with heavy metals. You might be taking nothing at all. If someone is going to proceed regardless, and some of you will, third-party testing through services like Ozempic is non-negotiable. Never trust a supplier's certificate of analysis. They can be fabricated in 10 minutes. Second, dosing matters enormously. The clinical trials tested 0.25 milligrams, 0.5 milligrams, and 1.0 milligrams doses. Cardiovascular risks increased with dose. The gray market typically sells tesofensine in 0.5 milligrams or 1.0 milligrams capsules. Starting at the higher end is pharmacological roulette. Anyone using this compound should start at the lowest possible dose, ideally 0.25 milligrams, and assess cardiovascular response before any escalation. This means regular blood pressure monitoring, morning resting heart rate tracking, awareness of any chest tightness, palpitations, or unusual shortness of breath. These aren't minor side effects to push through. They're warning signs that you're stressing your cardiovascular system beyond safe limits. Third, certain populations should never touch this compound. Anyone with existing hypertension, even controlled. Anyone with a history of cardiac events. Anyone with undiagnosed cardiovascular risk factors, which statistically includes most obese individuals. Anyone taking MAOIs or other medications that affect catecholamine levels. Anyone with anxiety disorders that might be exacerbated by increased norepinephrine. Fourth, the exit strategy matters. Unlike GLP-1 agonists, which cause significant weight regain when discontinued because they don't address underlying metabolic dysfunction, tesofensine's weight loss appears slightly more sustainable because it partially works through increased energy expenditure rather than pure appetite suppression. But slightly more sustainable isn't the same as permanent. Any weight loss protocol needs an exit strategy. What's the plan for maintaining results? What metabolic and behavioral changes are being implemented alongside pharmacological intervention? Using tesofensine without addressing underlying lifestyle factors is just renting results at extreme risk. Fifth, there's a reason pharmaceutical development stopped. Not because of conspiracy, not because it threatened industry profits, because people died. The risk-reward calculation didn't work for a general obese population. That calculation might be different for a specific individual with specific characteristics, specific monitoring capabilities, and specific risk tolerance. But those individuals are rare, and most people overestimate their ability to safely self-experiment. ACT5, the bigger picture tesofensine represents something larger than a single abandoned drug compound. It represents the fundamental tension in modern pharmacology between efficacy and safety, between potential benefit and acceptable risk. We live in a society that simultaneously accepts 300,000 plus annual deaths from obesity-related causes, refuses to approve drugs that might cause a few hundred cardiac events, pushes surgical interventions with significant mortality rates, allows unregulated supplement industries to sell whatever they want with zero oversight. The logic doesn't hold together when you examine it closely. Why is gastric bypass, with its permanent anatomical changes, nutritional deficiency risks, and non-trivial mortality rate, considered acceptable, while a pill that requires cardiovascular monitoring isn't? Why can someone buy unlimited quantities of ephedrine precursors at any truck stop but can't access a compound with extensive clinical trial data? The answer isn't safety, it's liability. Pharmaceutical companies exist to minimize risk, legal risk, financial risk, regulatory risk. A drug that might cause lawsuits is a drug that doesn't get approved, regardless of how many lives it might save on net. The FDA operates under the same calculus. No regulator ever got fired for being too cautious. Plenty have been destroyed for approving something that later caused harm. This creates a system that systematically undervalues efficacy and overweights rare risks. A system where potentially transformative compounds get shelved while populations die slowly from the conditions those compounds might have treated. Tesofensine sits in a gray zone now. Too dangerous for regulatory approval. Too effective to disappear entirely. Available to anyone willing to navigate the research chemical market and accept the risks. This isn't a recommendation. It's a reality. The question isn't whether compounds like tesofensine should exist. They do exist. The question is whether our current systems, regulatory, medical, informational, are serving people who desperately need solutions, or whether those systems have become more about protecting institutions than helping individuals. Every week, more people discover Tesofensine. More transformation photos get posted. More emergency room visits happen. The experiment is running whether anyone authorized it or not. What happens next isn't up to pharmaceutical companies or regulatory agencies or even gray market suppliers. It's up to individuals making decisions about their own bodies with whatever information they can find. And that's exactly why channels like this exist. Because someone needs to lay out the full picture, the mechanisms, the risks, the realities, without the sanitized talking points or the regulatory theater. You deserve to know what's actually out there, what it does, what it costs, in money, in risk, in potential consequences. Then you get to decide what to do with that knowledge. That's how it should work. That's how it has to work when the official channels fail. The science is out there. They just don't want you finding it. That's why we're here. This is the Real Bio Protocol.